beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of Mondays with Mondene. This is where we deal with life, liberty, love, and right now, truth more than ever. There's a creature in the Black Lagoon. Well, I don't know about that, but I do know this. There's a sound rumbling beneath our feet. It is the sound of truth awakening. And it's not going to go back to sleep. Good evening, my brothers and sisters, saints, seekers, friends, and freedom fighters. Welcome. This is the hour when we must speak clearly, act boldly, and live responsibly. Because the moment we've prayed for, the reckoning we've whispered about, the hope we've dared to believe in, it's no longer on the horizon. It's here. It's here right now. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said that there would come a time when the unsettling force of truth, justice, and love would rise, not to comfort the comfortable, but to confronting the systems of indifference and the decay of moral vision. That time is not coming, my beloved, but that time is here right now. We must understand this is no longer merely a civil rights struggle. It's a human rights struggle. It's not just about legislation, it's about liberation. It's not just about access, it's about worth. And it will take more than marches. It will take a moral movement made up of people across all cultures, races, economic postures, and ideologies. That's the only way forward, and that way is together. It's going to take immigrant mothers and Ivy League professors, Southern farmers and Northern students, small-town pastors and big-city artists, black, white, brown, native, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, queer, straight, conservative, and radical. If you love justice, you belong in this coalition. We must become once and for all, we the people of the people, not in words, but in witness, neighbor to neighbor, shoulder to shoulder, soul to soul. Let's take a hard but honest look at protest today. There are those who say, and I must agree, that protests staged in today's climate in 2025 have lost their moral seriousness, that they lack the weight and soul of the past. And you know what? In many ways, they're right. There's a critique we cannot ignore, that many contemporary protests are performative, abstract, and emotionally chaotic. That outrage has replaced organizing. That spectacle has taken the place of sacrifice. That what was once demanded justice now sometimes demand only attention. And it's time to ask ourselves, are we fighting for something or just raging at something? A neighborhood in Jackson, Mississippi went 2 weeks without clean water. Rallies were held downtown, but no one showed up at the water distribution site. We cannot chant for justice on stages and be absent in the streets where that justice is needed right now and the very most. Another example, an 83-year-old grandmother in Detroit was evicted from her home of 50 years due to a clerical error. There were no protests, no headlines, yet we held 5 rallies that same week with empty slogans. We must remember, justice begins where pain is often ignored. Moments like Black Lives Matter rose from righteous soil, but we must be careful not to become ritualistic, disconnected, or guilt-driven. The great moral leaders of our past, King, Rustin, Wilkins, Randolph, Young, they moved the world not by shaming it, but by awakening its conscience. And when they marched, they meant it. They were not posing, they were bleeding. Most of us know what protests are, but this is what protests cannot be. We cannot allow violence to masquerade as vision. Rioting, looting, the destruction of our own neighborhoods, these are not the tools of transformation. They are signs of desperation. And desperation, my beloved, without direction is a fire without light. I want you to understand and let it be known that hate towards any people, whether Jewish students, Muslim neighbors, LGBTQ youth, or black elders, is not protest. It is damn right sin. As the prophet Amos cried out, let justice roll down the waters and righteousness like a mighty stream, but rivers do not roll without resistance. It is our hands that must dig the channels. It is our feet that must walk the floodplain. If America is indeed suffering from perpetual agitation, then the cure is not to quiet the people, but to redirect the people from performance to purpose, from chaos to calling. We must organize, not just with passion, but with principle, not just with anger, but with clarity. Let our marches be matched with mentorship. Let our protests be partnered with policy. Let our passion be rooted in love that leads somewhere. Build, don't just break. It's time for us as a united people to build. My people, I say build. We must replace sanctuaries of learning where there are deserts of ignorance, economic engines where there is generational poverty, tables of reconciliation where there have only been trenches of tribalism. This is the charge of the unsettling force. Not to simply speak, but to transform. I've walked through protest where the chants were louder than the plans. I've seen buildings burn while hope stood still. But I've also watched neighbors feed strangers during blackout days. I've seen tears on the face of a former rival as we built housing for the poor together. That's where the unsettling force is reborn. Not in performance, but in partnership. And I say this to you, to those that are disillusioned, the dreamers, to the weary, and the warriors alike. It's time. Time to gather again, not just in streets, but in spirit. Time to resurrect the unsettling force, not for the sake of nostalgia, but for the sake of humanity. It's time to believe again, not just in what we oppose, but in what we can build. Let us create a movement that humbles the proud, lifts the lowly, and builds bridges where the world builds walls. We must go forward, not with guilt, but with grace, not with fear, but with fire. Let this be our refrain. We are the unsettling force. We are the thunder before the change. We are the bridge, the balm, the battle cry. We are not here to fit in. We're here to break through. The world does not need another spectacle. The world needs a standard. So let us be the weight that tips the scale, the sound that makes the conscience, the light that unsettles the dark. Let's be the wind that stirs dry bones into marching prophets, the voice that says, not on our watch, not again, not ever. Let us rise, people, not in fear, but in holy defiance. Let us be what this moment demands. And to that I want to say amen and onward to justice, to joy, and to jubilee. You know, I talk about a lot about knowing where you came from to know where you're going. Well, I came from the projects of St. Louis, Missouri. and I ended up into the majestic mountaintops of Portland, Oregon. It's been a wonderful journey, and Lewis and Clark took that journey from St. Louis to Portland, and I took it too. It talks about who I am, and as I'm with you often in the in cyberspace or on websites or on the what do you call it, social media, I want you to know a little bit about me and who I am. This book talks about my fantasies, my failures, my triumphs, and more than that, it talks about the resiliency of being able to continue to go forward regardless of the odds. I'd get a copy. It's called From Maladies to Melodies. And I hope that you enjoy it and give me some feedback. God bless.
Hey, it's time for you to come to Post Shine. Check out that catfish sandwich. Oh my goodness, is that the shrimp po' boy? Man, look at that chocolate chip cake. Man, I need to get over to Post Shines at 8139 North Denver right now because this food looks delicious. Or call if you'd like, 503-978-9000. And don't miss it, you'll be sorry.
In times gone past, we find ourselves making excuses so that people remind that, ooh, I've got to get home and tend to the brand new business. I need some time alone. Can't just wait until I'm finished texting on my